name is Shane Harris. I'm the president and founder of the People's Alliance for Justice. This town hall and debate and forum is co-hosted by the People's Alliance for Justice and the Times of San Diego. And it was very important, I felt, that we came together to have a discussion in regard to this very important election specific to Superior Court candidates running for judge. You know, there's a big discussion across this country right now regarding criminal justice reform. And it is the judicial branch where a lot of that reform can take place. I firmly believe that in order for us to create real reform, we have to have the conversations with those we agree with and those we don't agree with. And sometimes we may find that we agree. But we have to have the hard conversations with our judicial candidates, our candidates for district attorney, our local candidates for supervisor, and so on and so forth, because these are the local positions that really fulfill the path to reform that we talk about. So I'm thankful to our candidates today, Paul Starita and Tim Nader. And I'm going to now hand it off to the publisher of the Times of San Diego, a great publication here in San Diego County. It has broad views and really has been supported by so many of us who read the Times of San Diego. We're thankful to Mr. Chris Jennewein for co-hosting this very important discussion with our two judicial candidates. I'm going to now hand it off to Mr. Paul Starita, who is the publisher of the Times of San Diego. And of course, at the end of this forum,
Chris, Shane, you mean Chris, I think.
Oh, yes. Mr. Chris Jennewein is going to introduce the two candidates, Tim Nader and Paul Starita. And I want to encourage you to stay on toward the end of this forum, as we're going to give you information on how you can subscribe to the Times of San Diego and how you can become a member of the People's Alliance for Justice. These are two important institutions that are serving our community in different ways. And it is important that as we do important things like this, this is the first virtual town hall of its kind between Superior Court candidates for judge. And you would think, out of all of the important races going on, that this would be something we prioritized, but it really wasn't prioritized. And that is why the People's Alliance for Justice approaches things in a proactive approach. We don't do what everybody else is doing. We do it different, because our belief is that everybody needs to have conversations about multiple things. And we need to look at all of our races, down the ballot, up the ballot, everywhere, so that we can really know who we are voting for when we are looking at our ballot. So we wanted to hold this important discussion with these two candidates for judge, because you will hear about what judges do today. Our Superior Court judges do a lot, and we need to be educated about who these two people are as we're marking our ballots. I'm going to now hand it off to the publisher of Times of San Diego, Mr. Chris Jennewein. Thank you.
Well, Shane, thank you very much for that introduction. And most of all, thank you to the two candidates, Tim Nader and Paul Starita, for being here for this town hall and debate. Let me briefly just describe the sequence. We're planning to have approximately 8 questions and then closing statements, and answers to everything will be 2 minutes. Shane and I will alternate in asking the questions. I've got an application on my desktop that is a stopwatch, and I'll be giving you a hand up at 30 seconds so you can complete it. I'm sure this won't be at all like that infamous debate of 2 weeks ago. It'll be very orderly and people.
I don't see it like that.
And well, we'll alternate in the order in which you answer the questions. We'll start alphabetically with Mr. Nader taking the first question. And then, of course, for the second question, Mr. Starita will begin, and so on. We'll alternate in that way. So my first question is really, as an introduction, tell us about your background, why you want to be a Superior Court judge, and why you're qualified for that position. And we'll start with Mr. Nader, and you have 2 minutes.
Well, thank you, Chris, and thank you, Reverend Harris. I want to thank both the People's Alliance for Justice and the Times of San Diego for putting this forum together. As was mentioned, this is the only forum or debate that apparently we're going to have between Mr. Starita and myself on this very important, although under-recognized race. And I understand why everybody's focus of attention isn't on Superior Court seat number 30 right now, with everything else going on in our community and our country. But I'm running for judge because this is a critically important position, and it's never been more important at this time. As far as my background is concerned, my personal background, I'm a first-generation American. My father immigrated from Lebanon. I'm Arab American. I grew up here in Chula Vista. My father was a school teacher here. I went to UC Berkeley, moved back, took a job as a prosecutor with the California Attorney General's office, which I did for several years before being elected mayor of Chula Vista, my hometown. After my term as mayor, I did some other things for a while. I was an affordable housing developer in the nonprofit sector. I was a foreign aid volunteer in Central Asia after 9/11. And then I moved back to San Diego and resumed my career in the law as a child support lawyer and was rehired by the Attorney General 12 years ago in the Civil Division, where I currently work handling some of the state's most complex cases. That combination of criminal prosecution, civil litigation, and family law experience makes me almost unique among judicial candidates in terms of having the broad experience in the array of areas of law that this court is responsible for administering. In addition, I've had a strong record of public service as a mayor and a community college trustee. I believe that my familiarity with issues, including racial disparity issues, justice issues, juvenile issues that I've gained from that community experience is especially invaluable at this time when our country is facing unprecedented challenges that are reflected in our community.
Thank you very much for that. Mr. Starita.
Yes, thank you for having me here. I very much appreciate the opportunity. I'm running for judge simply because I want to continue my public service in our county and make a difference. You know, I look at the Superior Court judge position as probably the most impactful role in our county for a lawyer. I cannot think of a better way for me to use my experience, my character, and my just hard-working nature to assist everyone in the county. Not everyone finds their way to the Superior Court, but I think that once people do, they want someone there that has the experience, has the life experience, and certainly has the background and the ability to handle the difficult issues. I started my legal career out in the Marine Corps. I did many different things. I did what we call legal assistance, which covers consumer law, family law, you name it. I was a prosecutor. I served as a defense counsel. I've been a military judge. I've been an environmental attorney. And from there, I went into private practice for 2 years. I can tell you, I really missed public service. I did not enjoy that like I do public service. I was able to go to the United States Attorney's Office and I chose the United States Attorney's Office uniquely because it has both a civil and a criminal component, where I could serve our community, could serve the county as both a prosecutor as well as a civil trial attorney. I was a prosecutor for about 10 years. I've been a civil trial attorney for the last 7 years. And I can tell you that my time in the military has certainly opened my eyes to a number of formed, my ability to deal with people and how to empathize and understand people from different backgrounds, different cultures. And I certainly believe that bringing that to the bench is very important in our very diverse community.
Thank you very much. Before we go to the next question, which Reverend Harris will have, I also want to encourage those who are watching this to put questions in the chat, because we hope to use some of those near the end of the debate. We may also call on you if we can during this as well. Reverend Shane, if you'll take the next question.
Yes. So I'm going to go to you, Mr. Nader. I've known you for a long time. And I met you in your last campaign for judge, which you were unsuccessful at that time, but obviously successful in your longstanding message of reform. And, one of the things that I think has been really concerning with a lot of judges, whether they lean this way or lean that way, I think that, ultimately it's their philosophy. And so, Mr. Nader, I'm going to ask you, what is your judicial philosophy? I'll go to you. You'll take 2 minutes, and then we'll go over to Mr. Starita on the same question. What is your judicial philosophy?
Thank you, Reverend Harris. So my judicial philosophy is this: judges are there to uphold and implement the law, and we need to do it in a way that inspires community confidence, treats everybody fairly and with respect. As far as constitutional interpretation, I would consider myself a textualist, which is something we've heard a lot about in the news lately. But I have difficulty understanding why some folks who call themselves textualists have difficulty understanding the simple words equal protection, which are written into the 14th Amendment of the US Constitution. And I believe very strongly that 800,000 Americans died to get those words into the Constitution in the Civil War. We need to take those words seriously. And frankly, in our history since then, some courts and judges have not taken those words literally, whether the issue was gender equality or racial equality or gay marriage or you name it. People seem to ignore those two simple words when it is convenient to whatever their prejudice may be. I believe we need to take the Constitution seriously, and that is the highest law of the land. And I further believe that judges' job then is to implement legislation, to administer legislation, not to make legislation. The only time we should be monkeying with what the legislature does or authorizes is when there is a constitutional issue with it or a directive from a higher court that's binding on us. Beyond that, judges at the Superior Court level do have a lot of discretion, whether it's sentencing in a criminal matter or evidentiary rulings or the type of work we do outside the courtroom with the community. And I think it's very important to have judges who will use that discretion, as I have a record of doing in other spheres, to promote equal treatment of everybody and respect for everybody. I have defended the constitutional rights of religious minorities. I've defended the right to equal protection of people from different ethnic groups and orientations. The free speech rights of faculty and students. I'll continue doing that as a judge.
Thank you, Mr. Nader. We'll go to you, Mr. Starita. What is your judicial philosophy?
Thank you, Reverend. I think for a Superior Court judge, it's pretty simple, Reverend. It's follow the law, and that is it. You know, we don't make law as judges. That's up to the state legislature. And the most important thing for, I think, a trial court judge, a Superior Court judge, to remember is that you're there to follow the law and be fair and impartial. You know, we're not the Supreme Court. We're not the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. We're not the California, Supreme Court. We have to approach the job with common sense and reason. So when you're sentencing an individual, you have to be able to have empathy. You have to be able to be fair. You have to be able to be aware of what is going on with that individual, the case itself. And if you even look at civil matters, I think that, a lot of people aren't sure what courts do and wonder why, cases are backed up. It's because the sheer volume. So, judges have to be able to manage the cases, move the cases along, be efficient, but in the process, you have to be concerned about the fair administration of justice in every case. I think, the Constitution lays it out, pretty simple. And I think that people tend to make it a little more complicated than it needs to be. But for a Superior Court judge, I think the bottom line is you are impacting the daily lives of individuals in your community. And you have to realize that when you are making a decision. Follow the law, be fair and impartial, be measured, treat the people in your courtroom with dignity and respect, and promote confidence in that system in your community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll do the next question, and let's switch the order here a little bit, and we'll have Mr. Starita begin this question. We have a very long list of propositions on the ballot. One of those deals directly